Welcome to On and Off the Field with Durf and Dylan. We got Brandon in the house. What's up, Strikeout Beer? Always here.
Yeah.
I looked, and that's Jesse. What's up, Jesse? He said pretty good. He just said pretty good. It was pretty good. Don't worry. We'll make it better. We're going to get there. Don't worry, Brandon. Where's Tony? Get Tony in here. Maybe he enjoyed it a little bit more. But since we got everybody here, we got people tuning in, we got the like button getting smashed. I already shared this stream to 1 billion different places, so now it's y'all's turn. You share it, you subscribe to it, you follow it, you like it, and guess what? Durf will inform you of all of those fun details of where you can do it.
Absolutely. Well, make sure to follow On and Off the Field on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for uncut episodes, our live shows right now, and other great content. Especially last week's interview. Check that out. Make sure to rate and review the show on iTunes so we know how we're doing and what you like or dislike about the show. And you can find all these links at onandoffthefield.com, along with our fundraising efforts, and to learn more about Durf, Dylan, and the show. And while you're on your mobile device or laptop or computer at home, head on over to rtfsportsnetwork.com, where you can catch On and Off the Field on our live show nights on Tuesdays from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and our recorded show now plays on Fridays from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And while you're on the rtfsportsnetwork.com, check out all the great blogs that our great writers on the network are writing. Check them out. There's some great content there, so get reading.
Get reading indeed, and then I believe we said it last week as well. I got to start promoting a little better because actually the date's coming up a lot faster than I initially thought. August 3rd. Yeah. Brand new lineup on the RTF Sports Network starting the week of August 3rd, which is that really next week? I feel like that's not true.
Yeah, no, it's really next week.
Oh my God, is it? Oh,
we're
boy.
That close, yeah.
Man, this baby really just messed me up, man. I tell you what. Yeah, so August 3rd starting next week, brand new lineup coming to the network. A couple of our top shows, top guys are going to be getting some more slots in. I think Strikeout Beer's doing 2 or 3 shows. Dad's Watching Sports is going to be starting to do a couple different shows. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be a new great lineup. It's going to be more of the better shows that you already love. We're adding some new shows. We're working really hard to grow more, put more talent on the network. Mm-hmm. But we need y'all's help to do that. So just keep growing the page, keep sharing things, invite your friends to like the page. We on Instagram, Facebook, all of that for RTS Sports Network and On Off the Field. So yeah, really appreciate all of that. The Fantasy Football League, we're filling up a little bit. I think we're up to 7 people total.
Nice.
I've reached out to a couple of past fantasy footballers that we've played with and trying to see if they'd be interested. So it's $20 buy-in, goes to the Boys and Girls Club of America, so I cannot give your money back if the league is canceled. That is just, disclaimer. But, yeah, all the information will be on the OOTF family group page, On and Off the Field, OOTF family group page. And the draft date is forthcoming still. Yeah. We're trying to figure out, because we're doing this fantasy series on Tuesdays, and then we're going to do a mock draft, I think, one week. So we're just trying to figure out the best date for the real draft. So stick with us. Follow the group page. DM us. Slide into our DMs and let us know if you want to be a part of that league or not. And, yeah, it goes towards a good cause. So what more could you possibly want? So, all right. Dang it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to incorporate that thing into the show. So with that first football being thrown, will lead us into our first segment, which is the wonderful The Other Sports. That's going to be my next segment video. Next video I try to make is something to make that not as bad as it is. It's forthcoming. But this we got to add a little bit more to other sports this week. As you've probably seen in the description for this video, this segment is brought to you by the Maps Media Next Best Podcast Competition. This is an elimination competition that will crown the audience's favorite podcast. So make sure you are following all of our social media platforms so you can vote for our segment starting next Monday. I believe it is going to start. This voting will be next Monday. Yeah. So this is like week by week, we have to talk about a topic that is given to us. So this week's was pop culture. We had to pick something in the pop culture realm to talk about. And my immediate reaction was panic. I don't know anything about pop. What do you want me to talk about? The entanglement with Will Smith, I think, was it? Was it Will Smith?
I don't know.
There's some kind. I saw this funny video where, well, it's not. Apparently, some chick cheated on Will Smith, and like she used the word entanglement instead of like I had sex with this person. So they made like this funny video. It was like a dub of her saying entanglement. It had like a beat to it. It was funny, but
yeah, I
can't talk about that. So I started panicking, and then I was informed that apparently sports is pop culture.
Yeah,
I was informed that sports is pop culture. So
very nice. All right.
Other sports will be our pop culture topic, and more specifically, Rona in sports.
Yeah,
we're gonna really break it down here for you with the Rona. But first and foremost, we'll start with Major League Baseball. It's back. Mm-hmm. It's back. As of right now, it's here.
Yeah.
Right now, we have baseball. No team started 3-0, first time since 1954. The Astros were almost 3-0, but the Mariners were able to hold them off to get their first win of the season. They are 1-3.
Oh.
They snapped the Astros' 15-game win streak against the Mariners. So
there you go.
We did
Very
it.
Nice.
And then we proceeded to lose the next game like 8-2. But that's fine. That's fine.
You
Don't
still
worry
beat
about that. We still got one. That's all that matters. I don't have my Mariners hat in here. That's okay. But the funny part that I wanted to share with you is I think it was the Pittsburgh Pirates game. Mm-hmm. I have no idea who the Pirates are playing. I don't think anyone cares. They were in the box. They threw, I think the ump called a strike, but the ball was low in the strike zone. And next thing you know, the umpire just stands up and he tosses a guy out. You don't know what's happening. He just tosses a guy out.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, here comes the manager for the Pirates. But first, before he even leaves the dugout, I put my mask up. Got to put that. There's punishments if you don't wear your mask and you get into an argument. So the umpire pulls out like one of those little cloth masks. He puts it on. One of the straps is broken, so he's just kind of holding it there. And then they just start arguing each other from roughly 6 feet away. They have their masks on.
Yeah.
No, that was a ball, and you know it. That's garbage. Yeah, it was the funniest video, and it was sent to me by Joe, old friend, Wegmans employee. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I thought that was just hilarious. But that's where we're at now. That's where Corona has brought us, and that was just for comedy. But now we get into stuff that's not as comedic with Rona. The Marlins have, I think, a total of 18 players and coaches that have tested positive for COVID-19. What? 18. Virtually the whole team is gone. Like you can't play at this point. Yeah. I think rosters have 60 players on it they went into the season with?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know that much baseball. We only remember the beer trip, so
there's a episode you tune back into, Cooperstown trip. That's a classic.
That's a good one.
That's a classic episode. So I think 18 players, so roughly a third of their team has been decimated by COVID-19. Mm-hmm. And the MLB just came down today and said the home opener against the Orioles was canceled, but now all Marlins games, and I believe Phillies games, have been postponed, I should say, through to Sunday. So they're all their games are postponed. But I keep saying postponed because that's the word that the MLB keeps using. But the real question is are they really postponing these games? You can't. It's a 60-game schedule. There's almost zero wiggle room. What are you going to have, like a triple header? They have double headers, but what are you going to have, a triple header, bring like 3 teams to a stadium? And, you guys are just going to play for 24 hours to make up these games. So I have to ask you, at what point are games going to start being forfeited? And if this goes for weeks on end, will teams just have to start forfeiting their seasons? Just no more Marlins, let's say.
Well, I feel like the Marlins are in a very extreme case, and I'm glad it's happening now. not like towards the end of the season where the MLB can be like, oh, we our teams could be like, oh, we should have been in the playoffs. We had to play the Marlins twice, and we should have beat them. And what are you doing, Marlins? Like, you're in Florida. You know you got to be careful. Everyone wants to play baseball. What are you doing? Like, I know like the MLB is traveling, and there's a lot of extra points of contact. But then, and you look at it, and the Marlins now have up to 18 players and coaches total that tested positive. And I mean, it makes sense to me that the Phillies are going to get canceled too, because they literally had a starting pitcher for the Marlins test positive and played the full game, played a game the day before. Like, yeah, I'm going to shut these two teams down. But like the Marlins, I've heard the theory that, and this kind of happened back in, I want to say 95 when the MLB strike happened. And like back then I heard the story that like owners were like, it was 27 out of 30 owners were prepared to bring like AA and AAA players up just to push through the season. Are we going to see that now? I don't know, because I mean, a lot of AA and AAA baseball is not happening right now. Like, it's only the major league sports that are occurring. And is it worth it for the Marlins to try to field a team and then risk the MLB stopping earlier?
The Marlins are just, I think the comments kind of sum up my opinion with the Marlins, at least. We have Jorge De Moya, I believe. I apologize for any name mispronunciations. Just chalk up the games as an L. Marlins are going to suck anyways. And then the Marlins, they steal taxpayers' money for an overzealous stadium. It's just sell the whole team. But didn't the Marlins just sell their team regardless? And didn't Derek Jeter like just buy them like a couple of years ago?
I want to say within the last 5 years.
Yeah. So I mean, you going to turn around and sell them again? That's a very bad look. But I just don't see how they're going to do it. You're saying postpone. Where are you making these games up? I just don't see it.
I don't think you do.
And there's smarter people than me that work for Major League Baseball. I'll admit that. There's smarter people than me that work with inside the organization, and maybe they know more than I do. But from what I can see, they're in a lot of trouble. So basically, how much danger is Major League Baseball in now with finishing the season? I mean,
it's there about a zero, like maybe 0.5% chance of finishing the season now.
The only thing that might keep them together is they only need 16 teams to stay, healthy. If they can just have 16 teams stay healthy and make it to the playoffs, they'll just have the playoffs with those 16 teams. They could lose half the teams, and they'll just say, fine, whatever. We have 16. Let's do the playoffs. That's what I could see that happening.
Yeah, I could see that too, and I think that's where you're going to get when they finish the season. It's going to be the biggest asterisk next to the champion team ever because of it. They try to push through with this.
So you have the Astros with an asterisk, and now you have whoever's going to win this year with that. You got a lot of asterisks here in the 2000s with these World Series. No, it's looking very ugly these days. Moving on to the NBA. Oh, I got one more note here for baseball. Please note that Mookie Betts and Bellinger for the Dodgers are batting a combined 189. Ooh. Just thought I'd let everybody know that that's what's happening right now. Thought it was funny. Lou Williams has been quarantined for 10 days after visiting Magic City, which is apparently a very popular strip club. He said he went there for wings. Okay, sure. Go to a strip club just for the wings, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I have a really this is my thoughts on Lou Williams, and it comes from Kendrick Perkins. It's disturbing when a rookie in Zion Williamson can act more mature than an NBA vet like Lou Williams. And it's true. Zion is practicing tomorrow. Mm-hmm. They came out and said he's ready to go. Zion will play. And now Lou, it doesn't matter. You can make as many jokes as you want about going to a strip club for the wings. It doesn't. You can say whatever you want, but he went to a public place when he dang well knew that he was not allowed to go to a public place.
Yep.
And now the real question here is, well, we were lucky it was photographed and he was caught, because then he was able to go to quarantine. Like, what if he was tested positive and nobody knew? He infects everybody all over again, and the bubbles burst. Yeah. That's what might have happened with the Marlins. One guy goes out to a public place when he wasn't supposed to, brings something back to the team, and the whole team gets the Rona.
Yeah.
That's probably what happened if I had to guess. So, Lou Williams, you daggone fool, and I hope you know it.
Oh, but at least we have basketball starting on Thursday. Or Thursday, Friday? I don't remember. I want to say it's Friday, but
I think it's Thursday.
Is it Thursday?
Sun starts on Thursday. Or maybe it's hockey. I don't remember either. Who knows?
That's why it's the other sports.
Yeah, that's why it's other sports. We don't know what's going on. And then lastly here with the NHL, for Rona in sports, about the only league doing it right. Yeah. The NHL has 0 positive cases for the past week. And Fred says this is the reason the NHL will be able to finish their season. And I say most likely the only team to finish their season.
Yeah.
I mean, Brandon came in and saved us hockey August 1st, which is Saturday? Or is that? Oh, that's Friday, I think.
Oh, it
is Saturday.
It's Saturday, yes.
Hockey's starting on a Saturday. That feels weird.
It does feel weird, but I think it's probably in their best interest.
Yeah, it's a good day to start. You think it would start like Friday night, like pick 1 game or 2 games to premiere on Friday night, right. I feel like would be the way to do it. But hey, hockey's going to happen August 1st. I think basketball starts Thursday or Friday. We're going to have a lot of sports here going on at once. It's just a matter of how long they can last.
Yeah.
And hopefully it doesn't affect the NFL too much as we end our Rona in sports and our Maps Next Best Podcast competition here segment. So make sure you're following on us on social media so you can help us vote and win that. That'd be great. Appreciate any love there. And we're going to be moving on to NFL news.
How many times did you practice that before?
0.
Nice.
I had no idea how if I was even going to do it at all, but here we are. This is happening. It's happening whether you like it or not.
All right.
NFL news. We could have covered a lot of Rona in sports with the NFL, but this is a separate segment, so we do NFL all on its own because we know what we're talking about. But before we get to Rona in sports with the NFL, number 1 on the docket. Oh boy. Jamal Adams, and a 4th-round pick in 2022, is going to the Seahawks for 2 first-round picks in 2021 and 2022, and a 3rd-rounder in 2021. Oh, Jamal Adams. Now, before we jump to any conclusions, I am not saying the Legion of Boom is back. Let me be completely clear. I'm not going to come out here and say, man, Trey Flowers, yeah, he's like Brandon Browner 2.0 over there. Yeah, Shaquille Griffin is not Richard Sherman. Let's be completely honest. Quandre Diggs is not Earl Thomas. All right. So let's make that completely clear. But Jamal Adams is as close as you can get to a Cam Chancellor. This guy is a beast. And I am super excited to have him on the team. And it was 2 first-round picks too much. Let me give you some background here. Similar deals where 2 first-round picks were dealt was the Bears gave 2 first-round picks to the Raiders for Khalil Mack. 2 first-rounders went to the Dolphins from the Texans for Laramie Tunsil and Kenny Stills. And 2 first-round picks went from the Rams to Jacksonville for Jalen Ramsey. Most of those have panned out. Khalil Mack is a beast. It's just unfortunate he's with the Bears.
Yep.
Tunsil and Stills, 2 very important positions. Tunsil is a great offensive lineman. Stills, it was a package deal, so you have to give up something. Plus, Bill O'Brien sucks at negotiating deals. And then Jalen Ramsey is one of the best corners in the league, so that's a premier position. The big question mark is safety a premier position that deserves 2 first-round picks? What's your opinion on the deal?
I thought it was a little rich for the Hawks, but I feel like what we've talked before, the Seahawks don't really normally typically pick in the first round. They usually draft back to get more draft capital. I don't know what next year's class of the college football scene looks like for safety. They got an offense starting to brew here. I mean, they're still missing an offensive line, but to go back to the
I've
deal,
just given up on that. They're never going to have an offensive line. That's just gone. So next,
to go back to the deal, I think a safety like Jamal Adams is probably worth 2 first-round picks. I mean, the guy plays safety and at linebacker and on the D line. Like I saw somewhere they were like showing the breakdown of how many plays he's played at each position. He's played 1,500 snaps at the D line and at linebacker because of the scheme the Jets were in. And then he played cornerback on top of that too for like I think 500 snaps. Like the guy is a versatile defensive player. I'm curious to see how it pans out for Seattle. I mean, you hope it ends up good. I'm glad to see him out of the AFC East twice a year, so I'll take that. I only got to see him once this year when Seattle comes to Buffalo. Fingers crossed, hopefully. And but I think it's something you would have seen from another team, and that's probably what the Jets had to have in order to let him go.
And from what I understand, the Seahawks and the Jets have been in talks for like a month to try and get this deal right. What's up, Tony? I heard you just got back from Walmart, maybe. Brandon ratted you out. You're at Walmart, but welcome to the stream, Tony. Yeah, they've been talking for a long time. This was the only way Jamal Adams was leaving New York and at least coming to Seattle. So, and to your point with the draft picks, first off, Seattle always drafts terrible in the first round, or they draft back. I was looking at a list of their couple of their first round picks. People like James Carpenter, where's he these days? Offensive lineman. Bruce Irvin, who just came back, but he was a questionable pick from the start. It was just, it's not. They don't use it very wisely usually. And then also with this season, we don't know what's going to happen with college football. Buying some pops. Tony was buying pops at Walmart. Everybody. I'm assuming ice pops and not like grandpas or dads. Just got dads hanging up on the shelves. Get it? Pop. Get it? That's a bad one. That's a dad joke right there. I'm allowed to say dad jokes now.
You are allowed to
dad.
say dad jokes, yeah.
Now I forgot where I was at. Yeah, they don't use it wisely, and then you don't know what's going to happen this year with the college football season.
Yeah,
the draft picks might not even be that great, and then also. Seattle's always picking later in the round, 24 or higher. Yeah, it's not like it's a premier first round draft pick like top 5, top 10 that you're giving up either. So
yeah,
I don't love it, but I like it. I'm not going to sit here and say the Seahawks stole Jalen Ramsey from the Jets, but I'm happy we have him. And I also left out Bradley McDougall. Was also given to the Jets. So it's traded safeties as well. Forgot to mention that. So moving on, Alex Smith has been cleared for football activity with the Washington football team. God, it's just terrible to say. But he has been put on the PUP list, the physically unable to perform list, and he has to go through more stuff. He's not going to be hitting the field,
Right.
He has to go through training and medical staff in Washington to evaluate him further before he can actually, if he wanted to go on the football field, he has to pass a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
We're not going to see him on the football field. Let's be completely clear. No doctor will ever allow him back on a football field. This is like ceremonial, if anything. He fought back to make it back on a football team. Like he can be there. He will not play. Let's be completely clear. If you watch his documentary, he's not playing.
No.
Did you watch it?
I did watch it, and oddly enough, I watched it at 4 a.m. getting ready for work one day.
Oh, perfect.
But yeah, I just don't see. I mean, doctors are saying it's everything's healing and he's on the right track for it. Contact football, I just do not see it, and I wouldn't. The risk I just would not take.
I don't. There's no reason to. Just don't. There's absolutely zero reason for you to go in there unless you want to. If this is really what your life is all about and you want to lose your leg, I mean, go for it, but I would advise against it.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes is spending his money wisely already. He is now a part owner of the Kansas City Royals baseball team. He is the youngest to ever own / part own a sports franchise. So
nice.
Thought that was pretty cool. I don't know how much
really cool.
I don't know how much he put into it, but the dude has $500 million to spend. So
I mean, yeah,
cash it out.
$500 million coming his way. The more you can keep putting into the Royals to get more ownership.
Yeah, I'm thinking this young kid is going to be something one day. We're going to look back 10, 15, probably 15 years from today, and Patrick Mahomes is going to own the sports world, I think. Just the fact that he's smart enough, he took his money and bought a part of a franchise. I mean, that just shows you where his head's at. He loves sports. He put the first thing he puts his money towards is more sports.
Yeah.
This kid's going to rule the world one day. And we should all be ready for that. Yeah. And then lastly, for NFL news, we got Rona in sports. We got Rona in the NFL. The NFL and NFLPA did sign and agree to COVID-19 guidelines for the season, so we should have football pending a disaster. I mean, at least the guidelines are in place.
Yeah.
Everything is ready to go. We have testing details signed. And another thing that is signed is that if you opt out of the season, you get a $150K stipend for the season. You have to pay it back in the future, but you get $150K for opting out of the 2020 season. Right. And boy, oh boy, have some players taken advantage of that. Oh, yeah. Granted, a lot of these people have families. A lot of them have kids. I know Marquise Goodwin. Like he just had a kid, I thought, or his wife is. A lot of people have families and have kids. You can't be traveling all around the country and putting them at risk. So it's crazy. I have no idea what the full list is. I tried to keep track of every single player, but it just came in all day, all week long. Yeah. Ravens kick. One of the first ones to ever do was Chiefs guard Laurent Duvernay Tardif, who was actually a doctor.
Yeah.
So he's actually going to forego the season and continue his job in a hospital, doing work in the hospital. So that right there is cool. So he's not just foregoing it just to go sit and do nothing. He's going to keep being a doctor, which is awesome. But then DeAnthony Thomas from the Ravens, defensive tackle Star Latulele of the Bills, Chance Warmack, offensive lineman for the Seahawks, has foregone the season. Packers wide receiver Devin Funchess, which is a big one.
Wow.
And then a whole bunch of players, along with a total of 6 players, including Dante Hightower and Patrick Chung with the Patriots. 6 players, 2 starters. Now, I Bleacher Report put this out, and I thought this was just super cool. Bill Belichick calls Dante Hightower Mr. February because he comes up clutch in the Super Bowl. He stopped Marshawn Lynch at the goal line to set up the Malcolm Butler pick. He strip-sacked Matt Ryan down 28-12 with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and he held the Rams to 3 points, sacked Goff twice, hit him 3 times, 2 tackles for loss, and broke up a pass. He will not be playing for the Patriots this year, along with 6 other players. I asked this question on social media. When is the first star player going to opt out of the season? And within 10 hours, we have at least 3, 4 star players, if you want to count Latulele.
Yeah.
Devin Funchess, Dante Hightower, Patrick Chung.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a snowball effect. They agree to this deal, and people are just backing out. I mean, who's the next big player going to be? Where does it end if it does end?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. I think you're going to get a snowball the next couple of days, and I would assume it's going to level out. I mean, I don't want to assume too much because you never know what happens in sports, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if J.J. Watt says he's going to opt out because he's done nothing. I mean, he's voiced his opinion and his complaints about the face mask and with the face shield from Oakley now, and I mean, he's a star player. Is he super valued to the Texans? I don't think so, but that's another topic to talk about later.
He is not a 98 rating on
He
Madden.
is not a 98 rating. He is super overrated, and I do not like that Madden. Get your stuff together. But yeah, I mean, I was a little surprised to see Star Lutulele opt out. Hey, these players got to do what they got to do. I mean, their careers literally putting their bodies to the test. If they can't be there for their family when they get out of these games, then what's it worth? What's worth it?
And you also have to take into a small consideration, at least, that there's not going to be a preseason. There's very little training camp.
Mm-hmm.
They cite they're opting out because of COVID-19, but at what point you have to look at it? There's almost zero preparation for the season. Are they just doing this maybe to save their bodies? They know that they're not ready for the season, so they're just I'm out. I mean, that's a possibility.
That's a very good possibility.
But it's all up to them. I'm sure they discussed it with their families. It's their life. You can't tell them what to do with it. So we're here. We respect their option.
Yeah.
And we're just going to keep an eye on the list of who keeps dropping out, because I'm going to wait for that first, starting quarterback that drops out, or a player at the level of like J.J. Watt, someone like a star player. Going to be waiting for it because it's coming. It's coming.
Oh, yeah.
RT, yeah. RT. I don't know why Strikeout Beer just sent us like a bunch of RTFs in a row.
Oh.
I don't know what the purpose of that was, but thank you, Strikeout Beer, for being here. Brandon and Tony. All righty. Oh, sorry, I had to go back to this. What's a Funko Pops? What is that?
What? You don't know what a Funko Pop is?
No, what's a
Do you
Funko
not see
Pop?
my shelf back here?
Oh. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Oh. I didn't know that.
They're the coolest little things. I wish I had
I
more.
always liked them. I like them too. I thought about starting collecting them, but I'm not much of a collector.
It's a dangerous rabbit hole to go down, and I try to control myself.
All right. Well, I had no idea that's what those were called, but yeah, I know Tony collects those though.
Nice.
Alan, I've seen some of your pictures, and Tony, I've seen some of the new ones he's bought recently from Strikeout Beer on the RTF Sports Network. Make sure you check them out. Awesome show on the network.
Oh,
probably a top show.
Yeah.
Maybe not as top as ours. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's pretty close. No, they're probably better than us. They have a great program over there.
They do have a great program.
And they also do the late night beer review, which I have to get in. They're looking for intro music for that, so I'm trying to get into that. But we need to move on to our next topic because I'm getting sidetracked. We are ready to go into our main segment. We're going to bring in our good friend, changing the background. We're going to bring back Kyle Eggleston. He talked fantasy running backs, I believe, with us.
Yeah, I think it was
a while back.
Yeah.
So we are ready to bring him on right now. What's going on? Was it running backs that you joined us for?
Yeah, it was running backs. 2 weeks ago?
I think it was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
And you had the last name right the first time. I was so proud of you. Like you stuck the landing, and then you questioned yourself and said it wrong the second time. And I was like, oh, he had it.
It's like you stuck the landing, but then you try to walk away and you trip over yourself. Yeah, you try to do the cool walk away and you trip on a rock or something. Yeah, that's what I did. But we're here to talk fantasy tight ends this week as we continue our fantasy breakdown. I feel like I was supposed to click something else, but now I forgot what I was supposed to do, but that's fine. Oh, this is what I was supposed to do. Touchdown. Got one in there. That's the next segment. I knew I had to do something.
Yeah.
So, I think we started with Fred. We start with Fred every single week, I believe, so we'll keep with tradition.
Okay.
And I will give the solo floor to Fred for your top 10. You can go from 1 to 10 or 10 to 1, however you want, fantasy tight ends.
All right. Oh, well, number 1 and number 2, I struggled really hard making this list here. But number 1, I'm going to go with Travis Kelce. He just averages more points. He averages the most points for tight ends in the league last year, and he's going to continue to do it with that highest paid quarterback on that team. But I have Kelsey at number 1. And then number 2, I'm going to go with George Kittle because he is right up there. And it could have been a 1A, 1B situation with tight ends. And to answer Strikeout Beer's question here, we are talking PPR fantasy football versus standard.
Always PPR. PPR for life.
Oh, number 3, I think some people might question it a little bit, but I went with Mark Andrews from Baltimore. He's a younger tight end. He's growing that connection with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson will dump every single pass he can to Mark Andrews, and Mark Andrews will just run up that seam and go for touchdowns. So look at him as your third option on tight end. Number 4, I went with Zach Ertz. He's proven year after year that he's a quality tight end for them, for the Eagles, and he's a decent tight end for your fantasy league. Number 5, I went with Darren Waller. Seemed like a breakout tight end for the Raiders last year. I mean, I know I picked him up off the waiver wire probably week 3, and I just rode the Darren Waller train probably the rest of the season, and I was not disappointed one bit. So, number 6, I went with Evan Ingram. I know half the issue, I think, with Evan Ingram is some of the health issues on the Giants, that they just have trouble with keeping a team healthy. But when he's on the field, the guy's a stud. And fingers crossed the Giants are getting their stuff together, and he's going to play very well. So I like him at number 6. Number 7, I'm going to go with Tyler Higbee with the Rams. Another younger tight end. He's getting up there. He's getting more routine with the team. You're starting to see the numbers increase. I think he's going to have a really good year. There's no Todd Gurley, at the Rams now. So Jared Goff's definitely going to be looking at his tight ends more. So look out for Tyler Higbee. Number 8, I went with Hayden Hurst with Atlanta. You know, you lost Austin Hooper out of Atlanta, but now you got Hayden Hurst there. Atlanta has, it seems like time and again, have just produced great tight ends. I mean, just going back to Tony Gonzalez there, and there's a couple other I'm probably forgetting, but that was the first one that came to mind. But, you know, you talk in college, like, you know, it's linebacker you or safety you. Like, to me, it seems like Atlanta just produces is like tight end you. Like, they just produce decent tight ends that you can do well in fantasy with. So, Hayden Hurst at 8. Number 9, I went with Hunter Henry for the Chargers. He is another guy similar to Evan Ingram that if he stays healthy, he can do well. I know there's a lot of concern with, you know, Mr. Conservative with Tyrod Taylor there at quarterback. Does Hunter Henry get the passes, get the reps he needs to produce on your fantasy football team? I still think he's a top 10 tight end. It's something that Tyrod is going to do because he's Mr. Conservative. He's going to dump that ball off to Hunter Henry, and Hunter Henry is going to make it work when he's healthy. And last but not least, at number 10, I have Austin Hooper. The guy was a beast in Atlanta, and now he's gone up to Cleveland. And as long as Baker Mayfield doesn't have a terrible year, Austin Hooper is going to be your 10th rated tight end.
It's not a bad list. I have a pretty similar list.
Yeah.
So to keep things spicy, we'll go to Kyle next.
Jump over to me. All right. A lot of the same names, I think, especially amongst like the top 6 or 7, similar to running backs and receivers. There's a pretty solid top 2 tiers. Kelsey right up at the top. He's been the number 1 tight end 4 years in a row now. He actually had bad luck with touchdowns last year, so I'd look for that to maybe improve a little bit this year, improve on that great performance, repeat his tight end of 1. again for 5 straight years. I don't think that's ever been done before. Tony Gonzalez, as you were talking about, the only other tight end in fantasy history to have 5 years where they finished number 1. So just kind of an unprecedented era of excellence from Kelsey in Kansas City. George Kittle, probably the best bet of anyone to be able to catch Kelsey, especially with Deebo Samuel out. A lot of what ifs and unknowns in that wide receiver core, relying on the rookie Brandon Ayuk and Jalen Hurd in his second year after missing all of his rookie year. Obviously, they traded Emmanuel Sanders. So a lot of targets going George Kittle's way. Look for the 49ers to also pass a lot more this year. I don't think they're going to be leading as often as they did last year. I have Mark Andrews number 3, but it's a pretty far drop from Kittle. And I have the next 3 guys just like right in there, same tier altogether. They could go back to back to back in any draft. I think Andrews will fall down a little bit in the touchdown department. He had 10 a year ago. And the volume that he had didn't really support him having 10 touchdowns. So I would look for maybe the yards to improve a little bit, but the touchdowns to come down, but him to still be a pretty solid option there, consistent week to week. I have Evan Ingram at number 4. We'll talk about him a little bit more in a second, because I have him as one of my booms as well. But just when he's healthy, he has one of the highest per game fantasy productions of any tight end out there. And so, like I said, we'll talk about him a little bit. I have Zach Ertz at number 5. I think that he and Goddard are both going to be really good in Philadelphia, especially with Alshon Jeffrey starting the year injured. Deshaun Jackson, with the comments he made on social media, might be in the doghouse, might not see quite as much playing time. Interested to see how all of that is still going to play out. I think Philadelphia is just hoping that that's going to blow over with them reporting the training camp this week and not having any media attention there over the next set. Darren Waller, number 6, he's just Derek Carr's little safety net just right there. They brought in some playmakers via the draft this year, but I think it'll probably be a little bit while before the Raiders can get them up to speed in Las Vegas this year. I have Hunter Henry, number 7. I know you like to poke fun at Tyrod. I think we're going to see the most aggressive Tyrod we've ever seen now that he has the best weapons he'll ever have had in his career this year with Henry, Allen, and Mike Williams. The offensive line was improved this year, offseason as well. Phillip Rivers was obviously running for his life last year, just chucking the ball up. That's why he had so many interceptions. So I would look for Henry to do pretty well. Higbee's one of the most divisive guys early. He's another one of my boom guys that I'll talk about in a little bit. I have him at number 8. Rob Gronkowski making a return to the top 10 as my number 9 tight end. I just honestly, his connection with Brady, even if he just does it from the touchdown department, I think that he'll finish as a top 10 tight end. And at number 10, I have Jared Cook, returning for his second year in New Orleans with Drew Brees. He just had a fantastic year last year. I think he gets slept on by the fantasy community because of all those years in St. Louis with Jeff Fisher, where he was just underutilized. But I think he's going to have another really good year with the Saints.
Yeah, and excuse that lull there as I was hitting the wrong buttons there. Interesting. Couple of different names there at the bottom. I
gotta mix it up.
I got to make things at least a little interesting, right? Got to go for the clicks, man. He thinks Gronkowski's a top 10 tight end in fantasy. What is wrong with him? Find out now on On and Off the Field. There you go.
I got more points on him, too. He's my last boom guy, so we'll talk about him in a little bit.
Yeah, that's when things really get spicy is boom, busts, and sleepers coming up here. But last top 10, real quick here. I went a little different. Like, I guess this is my spicy part. I went George Kittle first overall, actually. I don't know. I think I just went with Kittle because it's just another year with Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know if that's really going to make too much of a difference. They're probably still going to run the ball down everyone's throats, but I'm just a big Kittle fan. Shout out to Dan Lamantia, Danny Boy, favorite, good top fan of the show. George Kittle, although in the middle of contract talks, will report to camp because that's what leaders do. That's from Dan, not me. I could care less. Travis Kelce is at number 2, obviously. It's 1A and 1B, like you guys are saying. There's really no discussion there. I do have Mark Andrews at number 3. I think his production will actually go up a lot this year. I know Hayden Hurst didn't take that much away from his production, but it's still one less tight end that has to compete with touches from Mark Andrews. So I think he actually goes up in numbers this year. Zach Ertz at number 4, just like everyone else has been saying. Zach Ertz is a beast, produces every year. It'll be interesting to see if Dallas Goedert starts taking away more looks. He took away a couple of looks last year. I wanted to drop Ertz a little lower because of that, but he's still just a beast and one of Carson Wentz's favorite targets. Darren Waller at number 5. Obviously a boom guy last year, came out of nowhere and was a beast and won championships for people last year. It happened in my league. I made it to the playoffs, and that guy had Darren Waller, and Darren Waller had like 3 touchdowns. I got destroyed. I actually have Hunter Henry at number 6. Excuse me. Hunter Henry at number 6. I've always been a Hunter Henry fan. If he stays healthy for every single game, he will be a top 10 tight end. He could touch top 5 maybe, depending on a couple of scenarios, but he's such a beast. And then Tyrod Taylor is you say he might be a little bit more explosive this year, Kyle, but he's still just a dump guy. He loves the middle of the field. He loves his running backs and tight ends, so I think Hunter Henry will be a huge target for Tyrod or Justin Herbert. It could go both ways. Tyler Higbee at number 7. I think we all had him around there. You know, these lists get a little bit the same. Number 8 is Austin Hooper. I love me Austin Hooper in that offense, especially, and I'll talk about this guy a little bit later, with the departure soon, you would imagine, of David Njoku. He will be pretty much the only tight end in that offense, and he will eat. Evan Ingram at number 9. I have never been an Ingram fan. I had him on my teams in years past. He's done nothing for me. I hate him, but he's about the only consistent. I say consistent, but with not a lot of enthusiasm, consistent receiving threat in that Giants offense. Then I actually have O.J. Howard at number 10. Yeah, you have Gronkowski there in the top 10.
Did you forget that another. He didn't do anything last year?
Yeah, I'm so excited. O.J. Howard will be the new Gronk. Gronk will be there, and it'll be fun. But O.J. Howard will be the new Gronk for Tom Brady, and he will eat in that offense. Top 10.
I was really big on O.J. Howard last year, and he let me down in like the biggest way possible.
What did he do to you? How did he hurt you? Show me on the doll where he hurt you.
I think I had him on like 6 of my 8 teams last year. And yeah, it was bad.
It was a rough year for him last year.
It's really high.
But Jameis is a guy who's going to bomb it. Jameis loves his wide receivers, and he's chucking it 80 yards downfield.
The year before.
I have a lot of hope for him. I do.
All right.
We'll see. All right, so we'll go back to Fred here. Let's hear some booms. Who is going to be booming this year?
Well, I think who's going to be booming is Mike Gesicki. I want to say it's the Dolphins.
Just say
it is the Dolphins.
And I mean that Dolphins team, they tanking for Tua last year, but Ryan Fitzpatrick's a player. Gesicki is he had a decent end of the year. He's gonna continue to get better this year. So I'm looking at him as a boom. But the other guy I have, who I think's maybe one of the controversial booms probably on fantasy this year, is Noah Fant from Denver. And I feel like he started out really rough last year as a rookie. And, him and Drew Lock kind of got their connection going on. He started to perform a lot better towards the end of the year. And I know he's going up on a lot of draft boards right now for fantasy. Like, keep an eye on him. I think he's going to have a good year, though, even with all those offensive weapons they have.
I just don't trust that Denver offense in general. People are saying they're supposed to be a boom offense this year.
Yeah.
I'll believe it when I see it.
I think it's going to take him a while to get going in Denver.
Yeah.
Actually, John Elway had a quote about that today. He's had to lower expectations for the offense based on the lack of practice time, because so much of it is rookies or second-year players with a new offensive coordinator. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Spoiler for the next section: both of the guys you just listed, I have as busts. But we'll get there. Booms. I already talked a little bit about him, but let's go into it. Evan Ingram. He's probably my biggest guy that I'm high on. I had him at 4, and I think you guys had him at like 7 and 9. So definitely one that I'm more supportive of. In a year where I think a lot of guys are going to be missing games due to COVID reasons, and it's going to have your roster in constant flux, I think betting on some of these guys who get injured or have a injury designation next to them, that like when you think of them, you're like, oh, if only they could stay healthy. I do think Evan Ingram's been a little bit unlucky in that department. His second year in the league, he took a helmet to the knee, which knocked him out for the whole end of the year. So it's not one of those soft tissue things where he's constantly pulling his hamstring or anything like that. And then last year it was a foot issue, which kind of borders on soft tissue, but we've seen Julio Jones come back from foot issues. We've seen other guys rebound. So, I mean, assuming that like he doesn't take a fluky hit, which you could say for anybody, especially concussion wise, because he does have 2 in his history. I'm just looking for him to stay healthy this year. He's the best aerial weapon that the Giants have, with Saquon kind of taking some of the pressure off on the ground. Daniel Jones looking a little bit better. Giants building up their offensive line. If this just offensive unit can stay healthy, I would look for him to do really well. If you take his stats from last year, and normally I hate doing this for players, but I did it for him just to illustrate my point of staying healthy. If you take his 8-game sample and put it for the whole 16-game fantasy season, he would have had 930 yards and 6 touchdowns, which would have been tight end number 3 from a points perspective. So that's his ceiling. And actually his ceiling could be higher than that, just in a healthy offense with Daniel Jones slinging the ball around. Not a great real-life quarterback yet, but a damn good fantasy quarterback and really good for your weapons there with Daniel Jones. My second one is Higbee. He's one who's a little divisive amongst the fantasy community right now. All 3 of us were pretty high on him, kind of believing that final 5-week stretch. And that's what you're betting on with him. Over that stretch when Gerald Everett first got injured, he scored 100-plus points in 5 weeks, which is 21.5 points per game, which is Christian McCaffrey and quarterback levels scoring from your tight end. He finished with 160 points on the season, and he scored over 100 in the final 5 weeks. So it all came after Everett went down. The good news for him, Everett was not lost due to injury in the last 2 weeks, and Higbee still played in front of him. So a lot to look forward to. A lot of people extrapolating that to thinking that he's going to have the job moving forward. They gave him a pretty good second contract last year at the beginning of the year, mostly because they liked his blocking. And then he showed what he can do from a receiving standpoint. And then my last point on him is just betting on Sean McVay. The Patriots kind of exposed his act 1 in the NFL, but we were all touting him as this offensive genius. And this was his chance to kind of reinvent the offense, get it to pivot off of what they did that worked so well for 2 years. And over that 5-week stretch at the end of the year, they really were a reinvigorated offense and really showing pretty well. And Higbee was a huge part of that. So I would look for him to have a pretty good start to the year. No Brandon Cooks there. Look for a lot of 2 wide receiver, 2 tight end sets in Los Angeles. And then a couple points on Gronk. He's Gronk. He's got the connection with Brady. Brady's been pulling his pass catchers in together. A year away and slimmed down, I think, does him a lot of good. I think he's going to play fairly situationally, kind of how he did his last year in New England, come in on a lot of third downs and in the red zone. And really, I just think he's almost a lock for double-digit touchdowns. I think he and Mike Evans, both just 2 towers, opposite sides of the field in the red zone, with Brady just being able to throw it to one of the 2 of them, with Chris Godwin working underneath stuff. I think he's just going to be really good.
It's gonna be a fun discussion here in a minute. But for my booms, I see Strikeout Beer over here is going TJ. I don't know if that's in reference to my boom, TJ Hawkinson with the Detroit Lions. This dude is built to play football, man. He's a huge, huge guy. And if it wasn't for his injury, this guy would have ended up being a tight end 2, maybe just 3. And Matthew Stafford loves his tall, big. This guy was white boy Calvin Johnson just playing the tight end position. Dude is a monster. Nasty injury took him down. I drafted him. I was looking forward to a good season, but I look forward to him getting back on track for this season. Same with Will Dissly. Boy, oh boy. Will Dissly of the Seahawks. This dude got injured back-to-back years, but last year he had, say it with me now, he had 5 touchdowns in 3, I think it was either 3 or 4 games. 5 touchdowns in the first 3 or 4 games until he got injured. There was other tight ends who had that for the season. Russell Wilson loves this guy. This guy makes amazing catches. He's a beast in the red zone, obviously. Mm-hmm. If he can stay healthy, which I pray to God he can, just for my Hawks' sake, he will eat because he's already proven in a short amount of time that he can eat. Kyle, you can do the math. You can do the math for me if you want for a full season on his numbers that he had before he got hurt. Man, oh man, was he a beast for that short amount of time. All right. We can move on to busts. All right, Fred.
All right.
Let him have it. Let him have it. I know what your list says.
My biggest bust is Rob Gronkowski. This guy is washed up. He's coming because it's a popular decision for him to come back to the NFL. The dude's lost tons of weight. He's not built for football anymore. He does the WWE stuff. He's not going to have a good season. He is a bust, and people are going to pick him up for nostalgia reasons. Biggest bust. All right. I made my case. My other one, another bust here is Jared Cook. I just don't see the numbers from the New Orleans from him. Michael Thomas is still there. Drew Brees is going to lean on probably Thomas a lot more. You have Emmanuel Sanders there now. They have a 1-2 tight receiver kind of tandem here. I think it's going to be more of a spread out offense. Yes, Jared Cook can play that seam a lot better, but I just don't think he's going to have high expectations, and I just do not think he's going to get that production for fantasy owners.
All righty. Kyle. Rebuttal.
I can say a couple words. I mean, Jared Cook was tight end 7 last year. I think Emmanuel Sanders is more going to eat into Michael Thomas than he is Jared Cook. And if Drew Brees stays healthy through the whole year, I mean, Jared Cook was tight end 7 with Teddy Bridgewater playing 5 games last year. So I love Teddy Bridgewater. He's a great quarterback sleeper. But actually, he leads to his tight end gets a sleeper later on the list when we get there. Bust, let's see. I start with Austin Hooper, which you guys both loved, which I like. Kind of why I had him listed as a bust. Switching offenses this year, not having any practice with the new offense. Going from literally the pass happiest team in the NFL over the last couple of years with Atlanta to Cleveland, which is one of the run heaviest teams. Kevin Stefanski led the heavy Vikings rushing attack last year, has Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Probably not going to be airing the ball out a ton. I just don't think the volume's going to be there for Hooper this year. I think his efficiency might be good, but efficiency at tight end doesn't really get you anywhere. He's probably be a top 15, maybe, at the end of the year. They do still have David Njoku, like you said, Dylan. Who knows what's going to happen with him? He requested a trade, but that's been pretty silent since then. He's shown sparks since he came into the league, but I don't know if there's any teams out there that are really going to go after and give anything of real value to get Njoku right now. So, just switching complete polar opposite offensive environments for Austin Hooper. He really only had that one great year in Atlanta last year. So I don't know. I don't really think that he's going to have too much of an impact with the Browns. And then, as I said, picking on your booms a little bit, I have Noah Fant as one of my busts. I don't think he's going to be terrible. I just don't think he's going to be as good as a lot of people said, kind of piggybacking off what Dylan said. The Denver offense is pretty hyped this year. Drew Lock, yet to be seen. He won a lot of games at the end of the year, but we don't really know what to make of him. The rookie weapons that they brought in are probably going to take some time to get up to speed. New offensive coordinator, defensive-minded head coach with Vic Fangio. I think that defense is going to take a huge step this year, and we could see this team running the ball a lot more, which just means that that volume isn't going to be there for Fant. And he and Locke did not really click down the stretch last year. He had one good game where he went over 100 yards and a touchdown in those 5 starts. The rest, he was like 3 catches for 30 yards. On very minimal target share. It was pretty much the Courtland Sutton show, which is what I think we're going to see again this year. And I just don't think that offense is going to have enough volume to support a top tight end and a top wide receiver. And that's not to mention the fact that they have one of the 2 most talented rookies, depending on how you rank CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy for the starters coming in. And then my last bust is Gesicki. New offensive coordinator and Chan Gailey likes to spread things out. Gesicki has played a lot in the slot the last couple of years, but hasn't been terribly good in that role. His yards per route run, which is one of the more predictive measurements of pass catchers in the NFL, has been really low. Each of the last 2 years, he's one of the worst ranked tight ends in that metric because he runs a lot of routes and doesn't get a lot of yards. So, we don't know how long Fitzmagic is going to be there with his YOLO style of football. They turned the ball over to Tua under center. I mean, we just don't know what to make of that offense. It's the Dolphins. The offensive line still isn't very good. They could have that quarterback change, new scheme coming in this year. Just a lot of reasons to kind of stay away from most Dolphins players. And this kind of goes for Devontae Parker as well. Both Gesicki and Parker really took off after Preston Williams left the lineup last year. Before that, Williams was getting most of the volume and was the best pass-catching option. And it wasn't until after he tore his ACL that those guys took off. So with Preston Williams back this year, I don't know what to expect of the other 2 guys.
Yeah, and the Dolphins added, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of offensive talent in this offseason. I'm not sure exactly who off the top of my head because I don't study the Dolphins, but I know they added a lot to that.
Jordan Howard and Matt Breida at running back.
Also just their running back.
They did try to make some offensive line upgrades, but they didn't make any changes to the pass catchers.
So I'm wondering if maybe they might start leaning towards more of a run heavier if they're not sure where their quarterbacks are going to land for the season. But
right.
For my bus, I'm going with Gronk as well. I just don't – a year off of football, I know that he's already been practicing with Brady. I know they have this magical connection from New England. I just don't understand why – I could definitely see him in the red zone. If he goes over double-digit touchdowns, I could definitely see that. But it's going to be very limited usage, red zone, third down. You're not going to see PPR numbers for him with a bunch of catches, bunch of yardage. If we are really looking at PPR, I don't see Gronk being on the field enough to make it worth it. And then my other bust is Jack Doyle, literally from the Colts, if you're not entirely sure. But Jack Doyle, I just hate Phillip Rivers. I hate everything about his being. Anything Phillip Rivers related, I hate. So I like T.Y. Hilton. I love T.Y. Hilton. I try to draft him every year. I probably will not draft T.Y. Hilton this year. I will not draft Jack Doyle. I think I had Jack Doyle on my roster last year for a little while. I will not have Jack Doyle. Completely overrated quarterback in his entirety. Phillip Rivers, without a Super Bowl, will probably get in the Hall of Fame just because he's Phillip Rivers, if I had to guess. So I'd put him in the Hall of Very Good, but definitely not the Hall of Fame. So Jack Doyle, stay away from anything Colts related, unless you want to go running back. If you want to go running back, I think they have a couple of great options over there. All right, Frederick.
Yeah.
Going back to sleepers to end out the series.
Sleepers.
Yeah, who do you got?
All right. Well, Bills fans know him as Rambo, but the rest of the NFL knows him as Dawson Knox. Now, I don't know if you've all seen this angry run he had last year against Cincinnati, but this tight end just goes out there, lays people out, catches over the shoulder on the sideline one-handed with all these wild throws that Josh Allen has. That's my least of my word right now.
But he didn't catch the one in the playoffs that he threw backwards to him.
Hey.
Sorry.
He didn't know it was coming.
Sorry, your segment.
But I think Dawson Knox, he had a great rookie campaign. There's not a lot of other tight ends on the Bills right now that can really I mean, they're going to give him a little bit of a competition threat, but I just don't see it. And I think Dawson Knox, he's going to be a guy they're going to get in a groove, and he's going to climb up that board in that tight end ranking. My other sleeper, I have Blake Jarwin and from the Cowboys. And Blake Jarwin, he's not – last year, I don't think he had great stats as a tight end in fantasy, but we all know how I feel about Dak Prescott and that Andy Dalton's going to be the starter in week 3. And any tight end that's played with Andy Dalton has done pretty well. And so, look for Blake Jarwin to climb up those stats later in the season with Andy Dalton as quarterback.
It's hard to take anything serious after you say stuff like that, but
I just stopped listening. I mean, I was just waiting for you to call on me.
Yeah, go ahead with your sleepers there, Kyle.
I should preface this for anyone who actually follows fantasy football advice. The following player is not a sleeper, but I didn't know where else to put him. Hayden Hurst is one of the most talked about tight ends. Everybody has him pegged as the next Darren Waller, as the guy who's going to go from obscurity to top-level tight end. And they're essentially only looking at Austin Hooper's production last year and the fact that Hayden Hurst was a first-round tight end that Atlanta targeted. They traded for him to bring him in. He's also very athletic. I think the comp works, but I don't think he has tight end 5 ceiling like a lot of people do. I do think that he'll probably finish as a top 10 tight end or right in that bubble. Like guys from 7 to 15 for tight ends are all about the same. It's a fairly deep position this year. It just comes on like which guy you want to pick to make that jump and which guy you think is going to maybe fall off a little bit, just because tight ends are so spotty in what they do and kind of usually touchdown dependent a little bit. But yeah, I do think that he's going to make a leap and be very fantasy relevant most weeks. Like I said, I don't think he's going to quite do what Darren Waller did last year, but I think that he's a good name to know and a good name to target at the end. A guy who got some lift on Twitter yesterday was Eric Ebron. He clap-backed at ESPN's top 20 tight end rankings, where he was ranked number 20. And he said that he plays fantasy football and would take himself over 85 to 95% of the guys on the list. And I'm like right there with you. I take him over 50% of the guys on the list. He's in Pittsburgh this year, for people who don't know. He's, I think, successfully broken his bust label that he got when he was with the Lions for so many years and just like wasn't getting it done. But we see that so often with tight ends. I mean, we just talked about Hayden Hurst moving to Atlanta. Ebron in 2 different stops now has been very useful. This is really a bet on Big Ben staying healthy, which is something that I'm very cautiously making a bet on this year, as I'm also really high on Steelers wide receivers. And we talked about James Conner when we did running backs. But the dude is just a touchdown machine. He's built different than any other receiver that they have in Pittsburgh. And I could see him being another one who flirts with double-digit touchdowns like he did for that really good season with the Colts when they had Andrew Luck getting into the ball. I had Blake Jarwin on my list as well. Jason Witten was tight end 11 last year. Jason Witten is 37 years old last year and had been a commentator the year before and finished as tight end 11 in the Dallas offense. Blake Jarwin is much more athletic than Jason Witten at this stage of his career. Good athlete. I think he's safe to get the 80-plus targets that Witten had last year. Good volume. I mean, I'm very high on all of the Dallas offense. I think you want as many pieces of it as you can. And Jarwin is essentially free to draft right now. He's one of the last guys off the board that you can get. And he could challenge for top 10 tight ends on a weekly basis. Along those regards is Ian Thomas, who is taking Greg Olson's vacated targets. One of the reasons to maybe not be quite so high on Will Disley is the Seahawks did sign Greg Olson. So you might see more 2 tight end sets there.
Ooh. His
Ian
dusty
Thomas
ass
is one of the most athletic tight ends in the league. Greg Olson was tight end 13 last year with Kyle Allen throwing him the ball most of the year. So with a huge upgrade at quarterback to Teddy Bridgewater, who's at least accurate, if not aggressive. We'll see how aggressive he gets with a new offensive system. The same offensive coordinator who led the LSU to record-breaking NCAA season last year. And then just a throw-in comment for Jack Doyle. I know you don't like Phil Rivers, but Jack Doyle doesn't have Eric Ebron there anymore. Philip Rivers has almost always had a successful tight end. Antonio Gates and Hunter Henry were built on Philip Rivers. So I think Doyle's a good rebound candidate. He's going like outside of the top 20 tight ends. And I think that he's safe to return value on that. If you're in some deeper leagues where you need to roster 2 or 3 tight ends, if you're doing like best balls or dynasty or anything like that, where you have really deep benches, definitely worth going out, targeting Jack Doyle and bringing him in.
That's fair. Yeah, if you're drafting 3 tight ends, sure, you can look at Jack Doyle. I would understand that. But
I'd say 2 tight ends, but yeah, especially 3.
No, 3. I'll be fine with 3 tight ends. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Oh, my sleepers. I think David Njoku will escape Cleveland and become a tight end 1 somewhere. And I say that because I believe as soon as someone's tight end opts out this year, if we have someone's tight end opt out, a tight end 1 or even a 2, Njoku has already asked for a trade, and people are just staring at him, waiting for an opportunity to present itself for them to take him. He's an obvious monster, Baker Mayfield. It was a run, like you were saying before. We still all like Austin Hooper. I think he'll somehow get his targets. But it was a run-heavy offense there, but he still made most of his opportunities that he had. Hopefully he gets to a good pass-happy. Get rid of Greg Olsen, put in David Njoku. I was really hoping Seattle. It was kind of around the same point they brought in Greg Olsen in Seattle. Around the same time, David Njoku was asking for a trade, and we bring in Greg Olsen. God, son of a. And my other sleeper is Jared Cook. Yeah, I don't know why he's there. I could go into that, but we'll try not to. My other bust is Greg Olsen. No, my sleeper is Jared Cook. I don't know. You already talked about. We had one as a bust. We had one, I believe, in your top 10 or a boom. I think people might be sleep. He was in your top 10, so I think some people might sleep on him because I know in the comment section it didn't appear over here for some reason. Brandon said he didn't know people were high on Jared Cook. He really is the only tight end target over there. You have Kamara that you can run a very good option kind of offense there with Kamara. You can throw to your tight end, middle of the field, down the seam. Mm-hmm. Kind of like a play fake thing. If that's not open, you obviously have Kamara. I feel like that's an offense they can run a lot because they can stretch the field with speedsters like Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders now especially. So I think the middle of the field will be wide open for Jared Cook to just do whatever he wants, and Drew Brees will get him the ball no matter what. So, yeah, he's my sleeper. I think that's a great show. Way over our time, but I don't really care.
Not as bad as last time.
Not as bad as last time. This one doesn't get aired, so this one we could just put up for as long as we want. I'm perfectly fine with that.
There you go.
Well, thank you again for coming on. We'll definitely lean on you for fantasy advice all the time. And I believe you are going to participate in our league, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, planning on it.
Nice.
Can't wait. He'll probably win, so if anyone else is going to plan on joining,
I'm just going to smack talk everybody in the chat when they're making picks. Be like, oh, that's terrible. Way too early.
Someone gets Patrick Mahomes in the 3rd round. That's awful. That's terrible. I don't know. One of my leagues last year, someone took Patrick Mahomes 1st overall, so I'll just leave that there, and you can do whatever you want with it. But
if you want to have like a draft strategy one, we can do that as well and like go over some general guide points, but that's up to you guys.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that'd be good because I think we have to struggle through defenses and kickers, which we might do in one show. I don't think you can really drag out defenses and kickers. So we'll figure that. Oh my gosh.
What?
Just got this weird comment in here. I'll have to delete that later.
Yep.
All right, but thank you again for coming on, Kyle, as always, and we'll be sure to talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having me, guys. Good night.
See ya.
All righty. And that is definitely all the time we have for our show. So make sure you start voting for On and Off the Field for this next best competition, podcast competition with the Maps Media and Millennials Anonymous. So you can find them on Facebook and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Whew, that was a great show. Hope you all learned something. Hope you follow us on all of our social media platforms that we said earlier in the show. And as always,
all hail the Jockstrap King.